Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside Mentors' Minds, where we dive deep into some epic humans and find out what got them to where they are today. Today we have a really special guest and someone I'm really curious to get to know more of. He is a creative cat and I love creative humans. I've been watching his work and seeing what he put out, and it's just I really appreciate humans that are in full expression. And today we have Bradley on. Welcome to the show, Bradley.
Hey, appreciate that, Matt. Glad to be here.
So when I say, I'm also careful when I introduce someone also to like label them. But when I say the word creative cat, how does that resonate with you?
Oh, I think it's great. Yeah. I've really been embracing the creative side of myself, and yeah, I'm fine with that label right now. It resonates for sure.
Okay, cool. Because like when I come across your work, I was like, dude, you are in full expression and you are a creative cat, and I love it. I love it, man.
I appreciate that. I experience a lot of doubts with my creativity, so it's nice to hear from other people that they're enjoying it.
You got to. I don't think the level you're creating at, you can't not doubt yourself.
Oh, that's funny.
Because like, man, you are really expressing yourself, and like to do that online consistently is like, wow, that's like a really good job, you know? Like you're in a certain level of freedom, at least what it looks like, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel it. I feel a certain level of freedom, and I can feel it within me when I'm creating something. I have certain markers that will arise within me, certain sensations or laughter, and I'll just know where I'm hitting home within myself. And that's the take to go with. That's the thing to talk about. This is the, whatever it is, whatever piece I'm creating. Um, that's how I kind of go forward with that.
Okay, this is really cool. I really want to get deeper into this, but I want to bring the listeners in, or people who are watching on YouTube. Do you just want to explain a little bit what we're talking about in your work and what do you do in this world?
Oh gosh. Well, at the moment, I've been, like you said, just creating a lot, trying to share more. I have a deep desire to serve and to use the tools I have available to do that. And I find myself alone a lot of the time lately. And so to reach out to the world, to help the world in some way, i.e., help myself, I'm just creating whatever comes up. And for me, that's in the form of TikTok shorts, Instagram reels, music videos, pretty much those things right now. Posts, just a lot of social media, really embracing social media and creating via those platforms.
Amazing. And I'll explain to listeners, I guess, my view on yourself, Bradley, of how I've observed your content. If I would to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, would it be like you're doing like conscious rap? Would that be
Yeah,
a
that's a
way?
big part of it. Yeah, definitely. Conscious rap. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out the
Sure.
hashtag genre of it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely rap music is part of my content, and I draw on a pretty, deep wellspring of
Mm-hmm.
experiences within the meditation world, within the psychedelic world, within the service world, volunteership, um, and ignorance as well. All of my experiences within, being totally asleep and how that's affected me. Yeah, it's probably my most vulnerable work is the music I'm making.
Hmm. Yeah, and you draw upon like really interesting places. I actually have a friend or someone I met exactly in Toronto, and he's in a similar plane of rap. Like, what were you influenced by when you were younger, before, and when you were asleep? What were you influenced by?
As in what kind of
Yeah,
music?
yeah.
Uh, I was influenced by, in my teenage years, a lot of hip hop. I was influenced by country music, 70s rock and roll. It's very eclectic. And I think
Okay.
that is kind of a theme for me as a person. And what I'm creating is just very eclectic content. I try and connect a lot of different dots and synthesize different experiences and try and understand them in this light of, connectivity, basically.
Yeah, and you can see it. Like I remember hearing you rap about the Palladians, and I thought that was interesting too. Like my friend, same thing, was influenced by hip hop as a kid and was rapping, and then what he's rapped about has now changed. He had this awakening, went through some deep ayahuasca work, and now he raps in the similar plane. It's like feel good rap or like enlightenment rap or however you want to
Sure.
title it.
That's funny. Yeah. And it's in some ways I feel like just an instrument sometimes, Matt, that I'm I'm just a vessel for something, and I don't know why things come out the way they do. I plan for things to come out a certain way, and then when I actually go into the studio, which, well, not a studio, my own little recording thing, booth, it just comes out a different way. And I think we were talking about this earlier, but it's just the process of it I'm really enjoying. Like it's so enriching, the process itself, that I'm not even concerned about results or getting anything out of it. I'm getting so nourished by the process.
Ooh, that is so good, brother. So were you always like this, to enjoy the process?
It's taken me some time to really fall into it. It's something I've been learning probably for the past decade. Um, but I've made some pretty big leaps within the past couple of years, past probably 5 years or so. And now I'm within the past year and a half, finally sharing more of that process. Like my process is now involving the world. Whereas before, me enjoying the process was really me learning to observe my process internally, externally, but more centered around just me. And now I'm embracing the other, and interested in sharing that process.
Bradley, you are speaking to my soul right now. I'm in
I knew
this.
we'd connect.
I'm in the same way, man. I was like, dude, I processed alone. You know, it's like it comes at no cost. You know, you don't have to face
Yes.
anything except for your own stuff. But like that's on your own terms. You're like, it's Tuesday. I can process this on Thursday if I don't. You know what I mean? Like no one's gonna see or in your own
Right.
time.
Very
But
private.
processing and sharing the process, and like this is what I'm doing right now. It's like, man, if you're watching what I'm doing as well, it's like you're clearly seeing me learn and grow and processing and getting and finding things out as I go. And but like the cost is in front of people, man. It's crazy.
It's true. It's true. And, I found that I was so fearful in the beginning, and I just need a little bit of courage sometimes, and I'll share a part of my process, and I don't die. Nothing happens. I might feel some pretty intense sensations when that's happening, but I always work through it. And it's just another lesson for me. Okay, I love myself. I'm still good. It's fine. And then I find that the things that I'm really scared to share about and communicate about are usually the times where when I share it, they blow up. They get so much positive reception. And I get, just so many people saying, wow, I'm so glad you did this. I'm really resonating with this, etc. And it just reminds me of this vulnerability aspect, and opening up. But even that has its downsides. Opening up too much
Yeah.
can get, the ego can get too big. It can destroy me. It's just this balance of me finding when to open, when to close, and kind of treating it all as an experiment. There's times that I take it seriously, but I have to remember that I'm just this observer. I'm still practicing. I'm still in the process, and and just enjoying that and using it all as data, like what we were talking about, using it all as data and grist for the mill.
Yes, yes. That's the challenge, right? Like, even in like, so my partner, she's going through a healing process with her stomach and her gut. And like just using like the challenges is like not becoming emotional to the data. So it's like when we post something and let's say our audience doesn't fully resonate with that one, or their attention isn't good, or it drops off, or any of these factors, it's like, oh, like my approach is going at it now like, okay, interesting.
Yep.
Instead
Yeah.
of like, oh, just feeling all of it and getting too attached to the process. But like, this is
Definitely.
part of it.
Yeah. And yeah, and that just reminds me, because I go through that too. I'll create something, and for a song, it probably takes me 20 to 30 hours when you take all the editing and the vocalizing and the video and everything. And when 5, 10, 15 people view the video or whatever, I feel sad inside, and I embrace that. But at the same time, I realize, wait, it was never for them in the first place. This is just like, they're just a byproduct. I enjoy just wanting to do this, and here, I'll share it. If you resonate, great. But sometimes I forget that and have to remind myself continually that it was never about the results in the first place.
That's so good, man. So something I've discovered while being online is this thing called numeric validation. Have you felt that, or does that word, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, well, what that means to me is external validation, and like getting those dopamine hits from the world, from the outside world, and having to like re-navigate. Oh, I need to get my hits from inside. I need to find that I'm progressing from the inside, because and I'm feeling it. I've just gained like some followers, like kind of little mini blow up for me in my world, and I was definitely feeling very pleasant. Wow, a lot of people are resonating. This is very positive. And like catching myself attaching to it in the moment, like creating bonds, and just having to step back and and basically close from that, and just close and come back into me, and until I'm ready to come back out and create something else.
So I'm always curious, because this is something I contemplate. I'm a very interesting human. I have a very logical side to myself, but I have a really creative side to myself. So I feel really blessed to be around creatives. The way I talk about creatives is we have one less layer of skin. We just can feel so much more. And so something I love to do is be around creatives, because they are, and I don't know, tell me if this is you, but I feel that when I'm around creatives, because they feel so much, it makes me want to be kinder. It makes me want to, like, when they're around me in the creative process, because like I get a lot of creatives together sometimes, and what I love to do is create a nice container to create in. And the way you do that is be like really kind and really gentle. Get good. The vibes are everything to the creative process. Do you feel that when you create, and do you feel that about yourself as a creative?
That what do I feel? What exactly?
Like, so like, do you feel like you have like almost one less layer to yourself because you feel so deeply in the creative process?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to compare what others are experiencing, but I do feel a lot, that's for sure. And that's been a big part of my journey, is just how to navigate my feelings and my sensations within my body and my emotions, and just coming to terms with them, for sure. And I've got a lot of Libra in my chart, and I don't know exactly what that means, but someone's told me that I require balance in situations. So like bringing people together and making sure that their needs are met, etc. But sometimes I'll be frustrated. I also like things moving very fast. So I'm sometimes the person that will push people and say maybe the thing that no one else is wanting to say, but that maybe more than just me is feeling, and just kind of like, maybe sometimes there's layers I'm wanting to break through. with other people, and I'll test, like, are they ready to break through? And I'll, you know, kind of poke at them and prod them and see where they're at. I kind of test the boundaries a bit. I don't know if that answered your question, but I'm honestly not around creatives that much. I'd like to be around more people creating, uh, but I'm mostly doing this alone or remotely.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, so my work is, before I got to where I am today, was a videographer. So
Oh,
I got to work with a lot of people, right? A lot, man, I've worked with so many different kinds of people. And so that's one thing, now that I've come to realize with working with so many different people, that, you know what I do? You know what my main focus is before I was to do any of this, or with people, is just focus on my energy.
yeah,
It's so cool. Like, if I just focus on my energy and focus on, being calm and in a good vibe, man, the thing just creates. It just does this. You know, it's like this nice, like, vibe that just goes in. So actually, for me, before the process starts, it's just about getting in the vibe. That's it. I don't need to think about how it's going to happen. I don't even need to put any real thought to it. The thought
yes,
goes towards the energy, and then
yes,
I
I
get
agree.
into the vibes, and then I let go. And it's something that, do you know who Quincy, or no, Jay-Z said it? Um, it's either Jay-Z or Quincy Jones. I can't remember, one or the other, but I know they both talk about it. But they say, let go and let God
Hmm.
in the
Yeah,
process.
definitely.
Do you feel that when you create, like you're channeling?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I was saying earlier, that I just feel like a vessel sometimes. And my job is just to keep that vessel open when I need it to be open, and then close and recuperate, or heal when I need to as well, and finding that balance. But definitely it is not me, like, creating. There's something rolling through for sure.
How good do you feel when you're in the creation process, when you're like in that zone? You're like almost
Dude,
not here, hey?
yeah, I'm ecstatic. I'm giddy. Yeah, just when something comes up that just hits so home, it just hits so hard in my heart and my body, and I just get like this lightning bolt that goes through me, and I just know, oh wow, okay, we're in it right now. Let's keep going, and just keep going. And it's just a lot of electricity, and it doesn't last forever. Like, I'm not interested in being in the flow state forever at this point where I'm at. You know, I need to, like, step away, you know, take care of practical issues, but setting myself up in my life in ways that I can access the flow state more easily. I can set up the container where, you know, I can allow God to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The chances of that happening are much higher given choices I've made. And it's just fun. It's just like, it's really fun. I'm just seeing that if I'm not able to play, I'm not sure it's worth doing.
Mm, I feel ya.
Yeah. And even in mundane things, bro, like, I need to be able to like have my heart in things that I'm doing. And because I'm just suffering when that's not happening. So
I truly, so, it wasn't until like 2 years ago, or maybe it's almost three, but I didn't have a creative outlet, like,
mm,
that I could really outlet it to. And so what I used to do when I was younger is I used to paint and put all, like, and I created this brand called Party Naked. And I would make all these branded things in my room, and I would paint and I do all this. It was made me feel so good. But then I, like, didn't have an outlet, and wasn't until like a couple of years ago I found videography, and then I could just keep creating. And I had so much energy, and I realized that's why I was being, not centered, and why I, like, outletted in different areas, and actually why I needed to spend so much time in the float tank, because I had all this creative energy, but I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to
right.
channel it or navigate it. And now that I have this channel, it's like I'm creating. I have such a deeper peace to myself now.
Yeah.
Have you been in music for a while, or is this a recent thing, or this rap? What's your journey through music?
Just this year, bro. Just this
No
year.
way.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
way. Just this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. I think I released the first song January 1st, actually. Yeah, I started writing more probably like fall, winter last year, and started recording in December. And that's it. That's all it's been.
Bro, you're doing so good. This is
Cheers,
your
man.
first year, dude. Like, this is crazy.
I appreciate that, man.
Wow, you would not know. You would not know. The reason I say this is like, I've been doing YouTube. I laugh at my journey at YouTube because, like, if you were to tell me, like, at the beginning of this, I'm at like this is why I love the journey of numeric validation, because the numbers don't the numbers tell a story, but they don't write the story. You're writing the story, and often and not, you look at people that pop, it's like, man, it's years of putting
Oh yeah.
in consistent effort. And so I knew that starting out, but I didn't know it was be like this much effort. So classic, I love the word ignorance, like ignorance, like you're ignoring. So I
Yeah.
basically would see people on YouTube and talk, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I can connect to people. I'm a talker, like go on this thing, boom, get smacked. And if you told me I've created almost like 200 videos on YouTube, and I have like less than 120 subscribers. And if you told me at the beginning of that, like the journey that I would be on, I don't know if I would have started. I would have been intimidated. But
Right.
when we talk
Right.
about the process, like I'm in love with the process. I'm in love with it. And so I kind of can feel, and I feel into my journey and see how, like, bro, I started way back, like to get to where I am today, like pretty far. And so seeing you and saying that you just started that in January, bro, you're keep it up, keep going, man.
Cheers. I appreciate that.
You're
I
tapping
mean,
into something.
yeah, well, I think that's there was a lot of prerequisites before the music. I was definitely journeying deeply before and kind of incubating before ready to start sharing and doing that in a pretty intense way. So I think that was a big part of it that I can't discount as, kind of giving me momentum for this.
And in your rap, like, hablas español?
Sí, pues yo hablo.
¿De dónde eres?
Yo soy de El Paso, Texas, pero aprendí español en Sudamérica.
Oh, Sudamérica.
Sí,
Okay. In Argentina or
sí, en
Peru?
Argentina. Yo vivía en Argentina, Perú, Uruguay, Ecuador y Perú. Sí.
Qué bueno. Yo viví en Centroamérica por más o menos 3 años. En
Wow, ¿dónde?
Nicaragua, Costa Rica, México,
Pura
también,
vida.
ya, pura vida.
Genial.
El Salvador, también El Salvador. Mucho
Wow.
tiempo en El Salvador. We'll stop speaking Spanish for everyone because we don't want to lose them.
No hay problemas.
Unless we got some Spanish listeners. That's really cool, bro. So did you go and do ayahuasca in Peru?
I did. Yeah. How cliche, right?
Well, yes, but no, right? Like, yeah, everyone's doing it because it was a trend, but I'm sure, I don't feel like you're a trend guy. I feel like you do it and you didn't know it was a trend or something.
It was, dude. This story is crazy. I'll tell it real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
It was in 2012. I read this book called Ayahuasca in My Blood. I loved the book. It was written by Peter Gorman. It was his experience spending 20 to 30 years there in the jungle, not in Iquitos or anything, but really in the proper jungle. And so I said, what the hell? Let me email this guy. Had his email in the back. I emailed him asking, like, how can I do this? I want this kind of experience. And I didn't get anything back. But 6 weeks later, I got an email back from him. He's like, hey, I'm not down there right now, but I can connect you with someone that does do these kinds of experiences way out in the middle of nowhere with the Matsis Indians. And I said, cool, hook me up. 6 months later, I'm down in Peru taking an overnight ferry way deep into the Amazon with a friend, 3 hour skiff ride up the tributary. And we spent 2 weeks with this native family in the middle of, I couldn't even show you on a map. And we did ayahuasca, we did combo, we did nunu, we did all sorts of fun stuff.
God damn, bro, you are a true space cadet. That's what
Oh man, that is such a compliment. I appreciate that, Matt.
You are a living space cadet. Like, you should volunteer to go to Mars. Like, you would survive.
How do you know I haven't been there?
Yeah, that's true. Bro, that's so funny. You are such a wild cat. I love it. But
I'll tell you one thing. Yeah, go ahead.
You please.
Well, I was gonna say that I've done that so many times where I've just emailed the people that I want to get in contact with, and people that most of the time might think, well, they'll never answer me or it's not worth it. You know what I mean? And I'll just contact them. And I've gotten so much free shit and awesome experiences out of just like reaching out to people.
So give me a tip. What can I do to just reach out to people? What do you do?
I don't know. I'll give like some small examples where I was volunteering at this organization for a while and I was very poor. And I was wanting to learn more about certain things like flowing like an animal or breath work and stuff like that. So I sent a couple emails out to like the guy at Animal Flow and Wim Hof. I said, hey, look, I'm really interested in your program, but I can't afford it right now. I'm on a stipend and, can you help me out here? And they just said, yeah, sure. Let me give you a login here. I'll help, and then get these programs for free. And, you never know if you don't ask.
I feel ya.
Yeah. So I'm really willing to just reach out to people, whoever they are, and ask them for whatever I need and tell them my situation. And yeah, it seems to work.
Have you ever been like shirtless and been like, yo man, like I really like that shirt. I don't have one right now. Can I have that shirt?
Dude, I walked into a thrift store today. No shirt, no shoes. It is funny. I'm seriously in the shirt rack looking at shirts, and the guy who works there comes up and says, you can't be in here without a shirt. And I said, I'm looking for a shirt. And he says, well, you got to go put a shirt on before you can shop in here. I said, whatever, I'm out.
Like, hello, don't you see why I'm here? To get a shirt. I'll have one.
Come on, I'm gonna go check out the shoes right after. Give me a break. Obviously, I have a shirt, but I like going into the matrix and just playing with the variables and see how the world responds to what I'm putting out in different ways. You know what I mean? In that example, when I walked in there, I immediately felt a little uncomfortable that I wasn't wearing a shirt and shoes because there was a lot more people in the store than I had anticipated. And the world picks up on that doubt, and it will target my doubt and it will exploit my doubt. But like the other day, I walked into Publix without shoes and I was so confident. No one said anything without a shirt and shoes. No one said anything. It was all groovy. But because I was so confident, the world knew that, oh, he's doing exactly what he needs to do. He looks different, but he's doing what he needs to do. And he's in his element. He's fine, whatever. But because I had doubt today, I was exploited, or that sure. Incident happened because I wasn't completely comfortable.
Bro, it just came to me because you and I are so similar in this way. Especially in my earlier life, I really played with this, like cities,
Tell me.
So I take mushrooms in Vancouver and just go play with the matrix. So I just lie horizontal, like the people are walking, and I would just lie horizontal on the road and just stare at people's eyes, stare at them in the eyes as they're walking past me. like stare at them, stare literally one after another, holding contact with them, just lying there, just seeing, just playing with it. Like, what I would do is be like, just stop someone and like, again, mushrooms, not mushrooms, I still do this kind of stuff, but like, I just be like, oh, excuse me. And they'd be like, there's like, cause they're in their walk, just going to whatever they're doing. So I want to just wake them up, just kind of give them a zap. And I'd be like, excuse me. And they'd be like, what? I'm like, oh, nothing. Or I'd be like, excuse me, you dropped your cat. And they're like, what? But I would be with people, and for them, it would overwhelm them, like the friends that I'd be with, because they're like, wait, you can't do, I'm like, I can't do what? Look, I'm just doing it. It doesn't matter. It's not real. They're not. And I would play with reality so deeply. But the challenge, what happened, Bradley, in that energy is I become almost disrespectful in a way too.
Totally.
Which took me too far at times too, where people are like, dude, you kind of crossed it, man. You kind of crossed it, but how do you know? And that this is kind of
you have to find the line, and only you can know for yourself, right?
Yes.
And then I think everyone, as they go through their own awakening, at some point learns that it's not our job to wake people up. That's not why we're here. You know, it'd be like, you know, would I wake my parents up? They're sleeping at 4 a.m. It's not their time to wake up, but I'm up. Would I go wake them up? Of course not. You know, and it's the same thing. But it's a lot of the time for me, there was good intention. Like I'd learn a new tool, and, you know, I'd feel something that I wanted to share. And here's how I thought to share it. I remember tripping on mushrooms one time, and something very similar to you. I was like popping in and out of this present state, and my friend was just not getting it. And I was reading his thoughts. I knew what he was worried about. And I just like was shaking him. I'm like, dude. And I was trying to fight him because I thought, okay, this will help him like snap out. Let me just push him and just get him so pissed off that he finally wakes up. You know what I mean? And it kind of worked, but not really. You know what I mean? And I had to learn that it was really my own fears of being alone, or not being able to fully validate myself, give myself that full attention I was wanting, and trying to get more people in on this with me, when really I needed to, you know, integrate that on my own. Yeah.
It's, you know what, when it's first happening to you, it is so intense, man. And for cats like you and I, who are a bit like able to be on the edges of it all, and we're so playful, it's like, it's such a fun space to be in, but it's also really challenging, you know?
There's real consequences.
And you don't know that. Like, it's like as a kid, you're just playing, right? You're just like, you're not considering the consequences because you don't even know them fully, because you're just in the play zone. That's true. How has that been for you? Obviously, I think you and I are probably in a little bit more of a grounded state of ourselves, but what was that beginning process like for you?
It was, I mean, I think that's, in a nutshell, what started to wake me up was realizing the effect I was having on people. And in my case, particularly, it was women and relationships I would be in. I was very manipulative and just not a very nice person. And I started to realize that it was actually me who was at fault here, and I was affecting these people negatively and really hurting myself in that process. And so, yeah, that really sparked, you know, what's still a decade-long journey of becoming more aware of my body and mind, and how I'm treating myself and how I'm treating the world, and being aware, you know, and that's led to just, you know, branched off to so many different tools and understandings of how to be in this world. Because the deeper I go into it, there's complexities that arise. There's so many different, you know, avenues and intentions and karmic paths that people are going on. And how do I navigate this just in a conversation? You know what I mean? Even you and I talking, like trying to figure out where our common ground is, where we are at, how can we connect? What is your experience like? Like, I'm noticing you're saying certain things and saying certain understandings but in a totally different way. And we came about these understandings in very unique ways. But I see the way my language, the way I would say it, is still the same way that you're saying it. It's the same insight, just you came to it in a different way and you express it in a different way.
And I think that I appreciate that, Bradley. That's a really beautiful awareness. And I think that this is great that we come to them in our own ways, right? But it almost comes to a similar understanding because we're our own unique experiences, right? We are all having our own. That's one thing that I really empathize when I'm around humans is like, no matter how hard I try, no matter how much I want, I can never have Bradley's experience.
We'll never understand it.
No.
You'll never understand mine. I'll never understand yours, at least in like a gross sense. I mean,
Yes.
in an ultimate sense,
Yes.
we're all here. We're all suffering to some degree in my view. But that I can come back to that baseline, and that really helps me connect with people that we're just all trying to figure this thing out. And, that's such an easy jumping off point just to connect with anyone, even someone who's seemingly different from me, different class structure, different skin tone, like just totally diametrically opposed from me, but we're all still trying to figure it out in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. So talk to me about psychedelics. What's your journey in this world, my man?
Whew. That was, I've been described a little bit as an extremist, and I don't like that term because what may be extreme to others seems normal and relative for me. But back in my early 20s is probably the beginning of my psychedelic journey, and I started growing mushrooms after trying it a couple times, and I was working for a corporate job and realizing that I wasn't going to be here long. And so I was going out into the woods with, increasingly larger doses of mushrooms, of psilocybin mushrooms, and just slowly allowing my reality to dissolve and see different perspectives and do my best to integrate it. But honestly, in the beginning, it was pretty clumsy of an experience.
Sure.
I'd have great insights and, slip back pretty quickly after. So that led to a whole string of things. And then I was taking mushrooms for some time, led me down to do ayahuasca. And on the fourth ceremony that I was doing ayahuasca, it was very clear from, I guess, the ayahuasca spirit or some place deep in my mind that I needed to focus on meditation and not doing the external thing, not trying to get to enlightenment through awakening through external services. And so for about 6 years, I took into meditation pretty intensely. And it wasn't until recently in 2020 when I dove back into psychedelics a bit with a much stronger base in how to integrate the experiences and how to just experience psychedelics, not trying to just take massive doses, but really do it in a balanced way where I'm going in and coming out with as much as I can get,
So walk me through like a recent experience. What have you learned now with your wisdom of like going through the experience? How does this experience look now?
Well, last year I did ayahuasca on the solstice, on the summer solstice, and
whereabouts?
This was in Ecuador. And I just did it with 2 friends. I found that I'm not interested in a shaman anymore. This is just part of my journey.
I love that. Why is that?
I just need space when I'm on psychedelics, and I've cultivated a pretty strong container over the past 6 years. I should say that I should give you some context that I lived in a monastic setting at a meditation center for 3 years, managing it, volunteering, and meditating for thousands of hours.
Whoa. So, where was this?
This was in rural Georgia. It was
Of course it was. Actually,
no.
it couldn't exist anywhere else. It's not in the Himalayas in India. It's in
No,
rural Georgia.
that's
And
right.
it was in a cul-de-sac around a community village or town.
I mean, it was pretty much like that. Yeah. And it was this gem of, it was at a Vipassana, it was at a Vipassana center. You may have heard of them. They run 10-day retreats.
Yeah, I've been to them. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I lived there for 3 years and really just went into myself intensively.
Bro, that is gnarly.
Yeah. I
That is
probably,
gnarly.
I did the math. I think I sat in silence, accumulating like 6 to 9 months in silence in that time.
God damn, that's cool. That is,
So
I admire you for that, man. That is really
I
cool.
appreciate that, man. It was a lot of growth, a lot of challenges, but I was in a safe container to be able to go into some deep spots and really eradicate a lot of old destructive patterns. So
damn, man, like I've been through that experience as well, but not to that depth. Were you ever exhausted like through that?
yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. And that was just part of the lesson. Like, okay, it's how do I balance my energy? How do I set boundaries? How do I mean, all of these things, it became just a workshop where every moment could be just an opportunity, and not just, when I'm out in the world, I forget that and I slip in and out sometimes. But when I was at that meditation center, it was like I was focused on me day in, day out. I got to be so selfish and at the same time giving an incredible service, picking up a slew of intangible skills. And it was just like, have you ever seen Dragon Ball Z? Goku and Vegeta will go into these gravity chambers and just dial up the gravity. And that's exactly what it's like at these meditation centers. There's just dialed up. And so there's a lot of pressure going on. We called it the pressure cooker. And that was it. I was in a pressure cooker trying to diamondize myself, essentially.
Damn, man. Sensory deprivation tanks?
Yeah, I've only done it a couple times. It's something I'd like to do more, though. Tell me. I know you're into it.
Well, this sounds similar, right? But something. Okay, so you'll find this really fascinating. It's through my research. I am so passionate about floating. Floating is so cool, Bradley. I think you would love it. You've been in it, but like when you connect with it, so the difference with going into a meditation as opposed to going to a float tank, you within 5 seconds already hit the zone because the conditions, because the environment,
right,
sensory deprivation, right? So you enter in this limitless container, right? So you're lying, but you're lying horizontal, but you're floating. So now you have reverse gravity on yourself, and your chest is opened. So your heart center is already opened up, which accesses the channels in that capacity, and then you've got no aches. So you've got no body. There's no body holding you back, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense.
So when you look at yoga, right? Yoga was, to my understanding, created to prepare the body for meditation.
That's how I understand it too.
So if you look at kind of how somewhat intense the yoga bodies have to get to sit comfortably.
Yeah.
So for the Westerner, or the modern day body is not designed for meditation. We sit in chairs where our hips, actually the muscle between our hip and our leg, they're shrinking.
Yes.
And so our bodies are not designed to sit in meditation.
No, it's true. There's a lot of benefits to the sensory deprivation tank and just learn to meditate in a more relaxed way.
But the challenge is, this is where you'll find this really interesting.
Tell me.
What I've come to realize, you will never, I can't say you won't, because I'll just say me, from my experience, because I don't know what anyone else has experienced, but in my experience, the challenge is your chakras aren't aligned. So when you're lying down, it's in a different plane. Whereas we're sitting up in meditation, it's coming in here. So the places you can actually access are actually deeper. But you have to allow your body has to allow you to enter those spaces. And that
Right,
means
right.
like no back hinges, no hip hinges, no knee things. And if those do, I mean, you've done deep work in this space. You know the power of acceptance of those. But when we're talking about a practice, like, because like as you potentially, and I don't want to speak on behalf of your experience, but I know in mine, if you don't keep up with it, it's just gonna float away, you know? The practice of that, like the state that I cultivated in vipassanas, and how it slowly just floated away with doing, because like for me right now, my meditative practice is about like a total like an hour a day.
Yeah.
And it's like you're just sweeping the floor, you know. At least for me, I'm just sweeping the floor. I'm not really doing much with that. Even I say, like, if I was a float doctor, I would prescribe people to float, like it depending on what level they want to float at, but like 3 times a week to get into some crannies.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been my experience with the float tank, as opposed to meditating. So what's really nice is, because this day and age, these bad boys are very prevalent in our life, it's really
Yes.
nice to enter this container that supports your energy and allows you to enter that space right as you, literally the moment you shut that tank, your head lies back and your arms go up, dropped in it.
Nice.
And you don't need to know nothing. You don't need to know
What do you
anything.
what happens for you in the float tank? What are you experiencing? Are you experiencing, yeah, I'm curious about that.
Bradley, that's a really great question. And I don't know.
Yeah. Is it thoughts, images, sensations? Is it just kind of a mishmash of all of those things?
So I think earlier on my journey, I would have given you an answer.
Yeah.
I've spent, I'm probably up there around like 2,500 or 3,000 hours now in the float tank.
Okay. So serious practice for you. Okay. That gives
Yeah,
me some
yeah,
context.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I used to own a float center.
Okay. Okay.
So if you get the chance, Bradley, allow me to pass the baton to you, to enter you into a world where you will meet some really cool humans. They're some of the
Interesting.
coolest cats on the planet that I've come across. I've traveled the world back and forth 10 times. So I've met a lot of different types of humans, and I can feel your vibe, and you would be a guy that would love the float center and the vibe, and I call it like a modern day ashram. And it's usually guys like you and I, younger guys that are into development of self, but exploring the mind, exploring thought, exploring reality. These tanks were created to isolate the mind.
Mm.
John C. Lilly is the creator of the tank, and he went through about 18 to 22 iterations to get it to where it was. But the work began studying dolphins' minds. And so what he would do is he'd sedate the dolphin. He'd put ketamine in the dolphin and then inject it with acid and then study the dolphin's mind. But what happens is the dolphin is floating, right? So it's not being held down by anything. There's no restrictions on it. So right now, even as we're sitting, we're restricted. And
Right,
so
right.
it's hard to isolate the mind. But John C. Lilly's thesis was, I want to study reality. I want to understand reality. Well, one of the best ways and one of the most untapped thing, especially back when he was doing this in the 1950s, when LSD was really just starting to be handed out for doctors, he's a psychiatrist and he studied the mind. And so he wanted to see what acid was doing with ketamine, all these types of variables. So really the float take started by studying the dolphin's mind. From there, he invented the EEG machine, which is the machine to study brainwave frequencies.
Right. Electroencephalogram.
There you go. He's the creator of that.
Interesting.
So then he created the float tank, and then he went
Wow.
into a world, brother. And I'll tell you what, when you do acid in a float tank, it is gnarly. It is gnarly.
I imagine so.
It is gnarly, man. Like gnarly. And take this in. I did acid my second float ever in the float tank. And it was my first time doing acid.
Wow.
Bro, I didn't even know if I actually thought I prayed before. I mean, the experience was like 14 hours or something, right? But when I came out of the tank, man, before I came out of the tank, I actually like cried. I was like, I hope I'm not an avatar. I actually didn't know if I was gonna come out an avatar. Like actually like a big blue thing, you know, the scene.
Oh yeah. I'm sure, dude.
I was like, I thought I was gonna come out like that. I would kid you not. I was preparing myself to come out, looking at my hands. They were blue.
That's awesome.
I was so scared, but prayed. It was so gnarly, man. But talk about naiveness. Like I had a pure level of naiveness. My good buddy, man, what a great human. That guy has really impacted my life. He was a young guy too, a young entrepreneur, and he owned the float center. So this guy we did some cool things at a center. So imagine this.
Where was this?
This was in Kelowna, BC.
Okay.
But imagine this. Take this in. Imagine how cool this would be, especially near the time of your discovery, right? At that time, like, okay, imagine like this is how I rolled, right? Like, so my friend and I in Vancouver, when I owned a float center, we would go up to Squamish, which is beautiful mountain. And I call it I called it one right turn from heaven, because when you're on mushrooms, you walk this mountain, right? But I knew the exact bridge when we're driving to take. I got it so dialed in. I knew the exact bridge. Like you're driving, there's the bridge. Okay, boys, drop. We eat it, and then we walk up the hill. It starts hitting you, and as you peak, you're at the peak.
Nice.
So, but when you're on the walk up, you can't see. You're covered by big pine. So and the air, man, the lungs just expand in a way that can never expand in city level. And you're on mushroom, get up to the top, and it's just amazing. But we would do these hikes, and then we're doing that at 5 a.m. in the morning. So we're there for sunrise, peaking at the peak. And you're just like, man, this is heaven. Like if this is what heaven would look like, this is what it would look like. But then I drive back and open up my float center. And open the float center.
That's so interesting.
And so
you just like opened up to some new experience for yourself.
Yeah, and then people would come in, and I'm coming down from my trip. But the thing is you got to think like a float center is basically like a mind center. So it's really important to have like a great condition. So really clean. All the walls are white, really good, because you don't want stuff for their mind. And so what's happened to a lot of humans is they're experiencing themselves for the first time. So it leaks a lot. There's a lot coming out of them.
Oh yeah.
So you're hypersensitive to their energy. But then at the same time, it's a perfect place to be doing psychedelics. So I truly believe like this is going to be in our future, hand in hand, psychotherapy, float tanks, and psychedelics. Because if you think about it, it's like the place you want to do psychedelics. I mean, other than nature, but we're talking in a city area, you know?
Yeah.
So what I do, we shut her down at like 8 o'clock, and then I'd host mushroom men's circles. And what we do is it's kind of like a buffet where you can head in the tank. All right, who wants the tanks? Who wants to go now? Who wants to stay out? We got playing guitar, playing music, got all great smells, eating, doing a bit of weed. What happens for the psychedelics when you microdose, when you take a little bit of edible, it helps relax the body so that you can transcend in the mind.
Oh, interesting. Dude,
Super cool.
that sounds fascinating. What an experience. Why did you give that up, or what happened?
Oh, that's a really great question. So when I started waking up and becoming into the energy that I'm in today, I wanted to really help people. Like I really care. I think it's my superpower, and sometimes I'm learning to let it not hold me back anymore. Before it really held me back because I just cared too much, and it's like I didn't know at the time. I didn't have the words to articulate, but what was happening was I had ability to feel people as they felt themselves to a certain degree. So if they felt pain, I felt their pain. If they felt angry, I felt their anger. If they felt joy, happiness, all this, hence the work I do now, because I can feel people very deeply. But the challenge I had was I had the inability to not feel them. I just felt everything they're going through. And so in me and what I was experiencing, I was an alcoholic about to commit suicide, cocaine addict, and I cleared myself of that. And part of that
Mm.
work was rewiring myself in the tank. And I completely rewired myself, absolutely, hands down, categorically rewired myself. Acid in the float tank was a big help as well at that moment. But um, I turned into a janitor. I was a janitor, and I wasn't felt like I was doing the work. And you know, man, you're this kind of guy too. And I don't want to categorize you, but just hearing and talking to you, you're the guy that wants to send the email out and go to Peru if you can.
Yeah.
Well, when you own a business and you own a center and you got like bills and customers and complaints and chemicals and all these things, it's like, man, I'm not a free spirit. Like I just created an anchor.
Yeah. But you were doing service, right? It was service work at the same time.
It felt that side of me, but then I turned myself into a janitor and I was like stuck. And like at that time, I was 25 and I'm a free spirit, especially like I needed to roam. I needed to be able to fly, you know, and I felt like I was confined, and I looked at the future. And because you're in a float tank, man, so you can really visualize the future really easy. Like, I mean, I'm floating every morning, so I can see where this puppy's going. And I'm like, okay, I did calculations, punched some numbers on the calculator, went into the tank, took that data, visualized, saw myself in the future, and instantly, nope, I got a dip.
Yeah.
And I sold my part of the business. Um,
Interesting. You just saw it wasn't going to be sustainable for you.
no, not with the mission and what I wanted to do in the world. So I sold it, but then deeply in it, like in the industry, like wherever I went in the world, literally wherever I go in the world, I go to float centers.
They
Just
have
try to,
them there in Bali?
yep, yep. And
Really?
the center here is one of the best centers I've ever been to in the world.
Interesting. Man, I'm so interested in coming to Bali at some point. I'm even thinking later this year.
What's on your radar? Maybe like some of the questions you have, I can answer, and I think maybe they'll help some of the listeners that are thinking the same thing.
I just I love tropical climates. I love mountains too, but I'm interested in being around other nomads, continuing creating and just taking it to a little bit more of a professional level, and ideally making Western money in in a country that is significantly cheaper than a Western country. Um, Plus, there's a bunch of like fruits and food that I want to try in Bali.
I
And
would
this
say,
is interesting. Someone did like an astrocartography reading for me, and I had two like very special lines, I guess, going through Indonesia. And they said, "This is your destiny line." I said, "Oh,
whoa.
cool." Yeah. And I take that with a grain of salt, but
Of
it
course.
was interesting. It was interesting.
So to give you something that's really cool that I think you'll know, are you aware of the Earth chakras?
I know that the earth has different chakras. I'm not sure where they are exactly.
Well, why don't
Enlighten me.
I share a little insight with you?
Give me the download.
All right, you ready, brother? It's gonna come in.
Yeah, I'm
I'm about
ready.
to come in, brother. It's so fun. This is why I love having different guests, because it allows me to bring out a different side of myself. You'll see,
That's right.
you'll see the next interview. Honestly, I got another interview tomorrow. You're going to see a total different dude. Like people won't be able to keep up with how many humans I am.
I love it though. Embrace the complexity of myself. I
Yes,
love it.
yes.
Let's hear it.
So take this in. The earth has 7 chakras, or I believe it's 7 chakras, maybe a bit more, but I think it's 7. But there's 2 cross sections of chakras where the cross sections happen. Take this in. The 2 places they cross in the world, one, Peru, the other, Bali.
Well,
So
got one checked off.
So take this in. So when you manifest or when you think, basically it is said, now listeners, we're going to go a little far out maybe if you're listening here, but this is really great data. It is said that when you think and when you manifest, because the cross sections of the chakras, they're the closest, they're when you're in the cross sections of the world, hence think about this. Peru, deep jungle work, healing, spiritual, ayahuasca, really connected. Bali, deep spiritual, they're praying every day. I got a temple literally right there in my backyard. I got a temple right there in the front. They come and pray on this thing every day. The spirituality level here is next level. And the reason that is they say because we're closest to the ether in these 2 places. So when you want to manifest something, when you're thinking, you want to be very careful here because it happens a lot faster either way. So what happens with Bali and what I've heard and what I've experienced, I feel so happy and grateful, bro. I thugged it out. I realized I'm on the track to getting my badge now. I thugged it out.
What do you mean?
So Bali really is an interesting place. It will really accept you or it'll spit you out.
Right, exactly.
It'll
I've heard of
spit
this
you
in Hawaii
out.
too.
Yeah.
Most people within like the first 6 months go through some pretty thick trials and tribulations.
But like, man, I set out, I didn't know anything about this digital world. Okay, when I started, I had a deep digital illiteracy. Take this in, Bradley. Up until the age of 30, I never had social media. And you know how people are like, oh yeah, I had it, but then I deleted it, I did this, that. Like, I'm talking Zippo. Like, my name was never on my face until the age of 30. Wow. So I showed up like bad, bro. Like, comparably the people here, like these people, like I'm in the land of influencers. Like, this is the place to create influence in a certain way, right? Content's so easy to create here because it's so beautiful. But the thing is what I found when I came here is like, there's like a grace period to get through. And like, I chose the period, ironically, during Corona. And you wanna see something, my man? I kid you not, you should have seen how many people scurried out of here with fear.
Oh, I'm sure.
And you wanna know what's interesting? A lot of people portray what they are and what they aren't. And I'm not here to say what they are, what they aren't. I'm just observed. But like, it was incredible to see how many people weren't really doing it. And during that time, how many people had to leave. And then what was incredible was then it created the true players. You know what Warren Buffett, I think he says, when the tide goes out, you'll see who was naked.
Interesting.
And
so you're saying people weren't playing as in they were doing the outside work. How I understand it is that they were doing the outside work, but not doing the inside work that it requires to really be in that vibration long term.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can look at it at that level, and then it manifests through the digital and the material world, which is like they're unable to sustain their business, or their business wasn't real, or they're just flaunting what they were doing, but they weren't really doing it.
Gotcha.
And I'll be mindful here, and I'll be gentle as well, because I don't want to categorize people that have their situations. Like, that we'll be straight. That was a very interesting time. And you got to think, being in Bali in a virus, you're on an island. So you're running a big risk. If there's anywhere that's going to catch it and something when we didn't know what it was at the beginning, like, you're taking a pretty big risk. But with my experience in life, you can't get the reward without the risk. They're on the same plane.
I agree. I agree.
So you need to be able to supersede those things. But the way we can see risk as someone that has developed internally is that this is part of the game, and you just follow your faith.
Yeah, that's it, dude. Follow your faith. And how clear can my internal compass be? Like that's like half the, if not all the battle for me, is just clearing my compass day by day, making sure that's clear because it's constantly accumulating garbage. Like you said, you can sweep the floor, but you got to sweep the floor and then every now and then really go in deep and get more cleaned out because everything in the world is trying to dirty my compass essentially.
I'm really mindful, man. I am really mindful as I grow, because I'm experiencing growth now. Like I said, I've got my digital badge. Like I feel like I got it. I realized driving home on the scooter from the gym the other day, I'm like, yes, I am getting my digital stripe. Like I feel like I'm really earning this. And you got to think, Bradley, like some of the humans I've been around here are like, and that's how I know numeric validation. I already know because I've been around people with pretty inflated followings and
Yes.
interacted with them, been around them. I'm at their house. I've seen them do the stories and all this. Like I didn't even know how to story. I had to ask guys like, yo, man, like, how do you do this? Like, what's an Instagram? Like, how, like that bad? Like, think of your grandpa's level of awareness of Instagram, and that was mine. And I'm hanging out with all these cats that are just like, playing this game.
Yes.
A lot of learning. So I felt like, man, I actually earned my digital stripe, and I feel really grateful that I thugged it out, because that's what it was. It was and I'm still in it, brother. Like I am still in the heat right now. I have not come through the other side. I'm directly in the heat, and I'll be candid with you right now. I had a conversation with my partner. She broke down crying last night out of fear of what we're in. But I'm
Mm,
like, yo, look at how many things we've got through already. Like, you think that we're not going to get through this? Of course we are.
yeah.
Of
It's the
course.
faith, man. The faith. It's such an integral part of my journey in how I can cultivate it and protect it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Talk,
when I
talk to me
lose it,
about your faith.
it's
How do
just,
you feel it?
it's, it's just something deep within me. It's hard to explain, man. It's something I've cultivated, it's and it manifests in different ways and how I understand it through intuition and through the world. Like I've really had like started to develop more faith in the world. Like
Oh,
give you an
I love
example
that.
that the world is the mirror. It is the
Mm.
mirror for me in my moment. And when I need something, when I pray on something, I'm I'm allowing the mirror to tell me what that is that I need, where that is to go. And then I run that through my own, my own filters within my own heart and then go with that. But I'm so open to when people say, yo, do this, yo, do that. I'm like, all right, let's do it. See what happens. You know what I mean? And I'm open to just that. I'm very, I'm just trying to, I don't know what's the best for me, but I know that I'm God. I know that you're God.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to listen to God, not just within me, but without. I'm just opening up more channels of information, running it through the filters and making courageous.
Wow, brother. Wow, that is so good. Thank you for that.
Thank you, man. It's been very helpful.
Whew.
And it's also been just very trusting, having to trust. The deeper I trust myself, the more I'm trusting the world. And I realize that when I'm not trusting someone, I'm not trusting myself. And it's just like that line between me and the other, that separation is just dissolving bit by bit. You know what I mean?
Bro, I hear your soul. That's so good, dude. That hit me so deeply. It is so true in my world as well. What do you do
Good.
when you don't trust? What's your process?
When I don't trust, I've got to retreat, man. I've got to just take a step back and it's a clear sign that I'm imbalanced. I'm not I'm not accepting what's happening with equipoise, and I need to just come back. And whether that could be a short process where I spend a day by myself, I meditate, I don't use my phone. I've got this massive tool belt that I've picked up with so many different tools, some that I know better than others, but I use a lot of different tools, and I just kind of go by my gut and what I need, and usually that is divided into, am I not taking care of my body right now? Am I not taking care of my mind? And am I not taking care of my relationships? And those are the main three. And, developing communication skills to help with the relationships, honesty, like all of these different tools. And then just drawing on, it's like I'm opening up a chest full of tools, just looking at it. Okay, this one's calling me, this one's calling me. Let's use these, see what happens. Come back into my faith, into my confidence, and accept what's happening, and then move forward. Whereas before I became this mature, I was probably, reacting and freaking out, like, oh, I'm losing it, I don't know what to do. But there's sometimes, like you with the deprivation tank, there's some tools that come around us in our lifetimes, in our own karmic inclinations that really resonate. And it's like, okay, that's a tool that I need to learn inside and out, because it's going to be something that I use perhaps my whole life, and that I've used even before this life. And so, I have probably 10, 20, 30, 50 tools, but there's only a handful of tools that I know I'm going to use all the time and that actually incorporate into my daily life. Just like meditating. I mean, I can meditate anywhere. I don't have to sit down cross-legged to meditate at this point. I can feel my body scan up and down. I'm feeling it. I'm in it. I'm in it. And so, yeah, some of those tools help me all the time. But when they're not enough, I have other tools to go to. And just that space alone, like recalibrating my energy, is just so important for me.
Bro, I love how far out you are. I love it. It's inspiring.
Dude, I'm feeling the same way, man. This is an inspiring conversation.
I'm feeling good, man. Like sometimes when you're on the mish, when you're on your mish, it just gets a little sick.
Oh, that's great.
You know what I'm talking
Of course
about.
I do. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. When you're on your mish, it gets a little tight. It gets a little serious sometimes. You know what I mean? And talking to you, it's like, I haven't connected to this part of myself in a minute, because I've been so serious,
Good,
so
good.
just like feels good to get. I feel like I'm getting back in my spacesuit again. I'm like, oh man, I remember when I used to wear this thing. Like, oh, sick, here's the hat thing, it comes over. Oh, I remember this. Oh yeah, this button, to infinity and beyond. It's like, oh, sick. I used to play in this space, man. Like I used to just live in this space. The challenge was I didn't have groundedness. So I would get caught in the currents, get caught in the wind, and I'd make a lot of mistakes, which leads me to, I'm curious. I'd love us to share something with each other. What was the last biggest mistake you made?
Oh man, that's a good question, and I'll prerequisite that with my perspective on mistakes at this point, experientially, is that they're not mistakes.
Sure.
Because I've learned from them deeply.
Yes.
But
so what's your biggest lesson you've learned then?
Yeah, let's just rephrase that. That's a good question. That's a really good question. Oh, biggest lesson. Man, there's so many. I'm trying to think of one that's really dramatic, but I'll be honest, my waves, they used to be more like this, but now they're definitely like coming closer.
Thank God, hey? Thank God.
So I'm in my mind, I'm looking for something really dramatic, but there's not one recently that's been really dramatic.
Okay, maybe you can help me then.
Please.
So one of the things that I'm mindful of now that I experience my body, and since I asked you this question, I can feel it inside myself. I really want to do like a good job. You know what I mean? Like I really want to be a good human. I want to be kind to others, and I really want to like, yeah, create like an impact and on the road to peace. But in my expansion, I'm expanding, right? So then as that expansion goes, the way I look at expansion, it's like sometimes say there's this grid, there's this grid and there's these rocks on the grid. And what happens as you rise is you rise and you lift the grid up, but then you realize there's some rocks that are like, oh, I couldn't see that because it was underneath the water. But I feel like
Mm,
this is what happens when I grow and I get exposed and I see that was not there before, but due to the level of capacity of my energetic growth, I couldn't see it. And so something that I really want to do while I grow on social media is like I've never exposed myself like this before. So with this level of exposure, it's like really positive. It means I can create a great impact. It means I can like share with people my insights and my peace that I've experienced. But with that, there's also going to be potential moments, which thankfully I have a really great partner, a really nice human who helps me see parts of things that are like, maybe don't say it in that way, or I don't know if I would post that, or oh, maybe
right.
I'm not sure. Like she kind of helps she's my discernment. Um, but yeah, it's something I feel like maybe what, and maybe you could share with me your tool or something you do. But like, what about like, say I express something and it like really triggers a lot of humans. What's your navigation through that? Or if you were to anticipate that online, what would your advice be to me?
I mean, for me, it's coming back to is it my truth? And not just that, but what is my intention? Like when I, that can when I make a wave on social media, as small as they may be, they're big in my world.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to come back to, what was my intention here? And sometimes it was not the most wholesome intention. Sometimes it was to kind of ruffle someone's feathers or ruffle whatever, um, you know, what am I trying to say? Trying to just, make some waves here. And just having to step back and like, I don't know, just being honest, more and more honest with myself about my intentions, my complexity, and forgiving myself. I'm not always the kindest person. I can be rather impatient sometimes. I can be too direct. And so it's this balance of like, oh, okay, I've got these, and it comes with awareness. Like I'm not going to know my intentions if I'm not aware enough to know my intentions. And my intentions are multifaceted. It's not just this is my intention. There's so many different intentions playing into my actions and what I'm posting. And just like coming back to those and recalibrating, like I was saying, man, and just being forgiving myself for it, asking for forgiveness from those that I might have hurt unconsciously, and kind of shaking it off too, like using my body in a way that I kind of like, shake it off and just get it out, whatever it is that I need to get out. Again, I think that my biggest tool is having tools that I can go back to. And so I go to
Mm-hmm.
my chest and it's like, okay, and asking myself, dude, that's such a tool that I thought was underrated, that I'm still learning so much about. But the program in me to seek external, to like seek knowledge from others and what they think I should do, whether it's from the internet or from other people, whatever it is, but really like taking time, 5, 10, 15 minutes, like sitting down. What do I do about this situation? I feel really shitty about this post and the kind of feedback I'm getting. I've hurt some people clearly. Like, how do I move through this gracefully? And really asking myself that and being patient enough to wait for the answer.
I love it, man. That's such great advice. I really appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking it because it draws out the reminder for me.
Yeah, man. You know what? Like, as I've sailed, like, I look at life and exploration as like almost like sailing on the ocean. And I've been in so many conditions now that, like, before, my naiveness served me and allowed me to get through a lot of destinations or journeys. But now, now I'm more patient and anticipate different conditions.
Okay.
So I appreciate you sharing. So Bradley, as we're coming to the end of this conversation, um, how would you feel, since we've journeyed so deep together? I can feel our energy, like we've gone through this like exploration, so this micro psychedelic trip. How would you like to close this ceremony? What do you think is a good way to close this?
I think maybe with a prayer.
Okay.
I think I'd like to give a prayer.
I would love you to give a prayer.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can close our eyes.
Okay.
Take a deep breath. And for you and I, Matt, and anyone who's listening, I pray that they walk their path in their truest sense, learning to listen to their heart, to their body, protecting their mind, and giving whatever gifts they have to the world. Learning how to burn in the fire. May we let go of the patterns and the people and the things that no longer serve us. With grace, humility, and kindness. May we all be free, happy, and peaceful. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you, and I would love to do this again at some point.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring you back on again for sure.
Good. There's a lot for us to
Absolutely.
discuss.
I feel like I got to like go on a bit of a space in myself that I don't get to explore with too many humans. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate your work. I want to acknowledge you, Bradley, for the work you're putting out into the world. And I also want to feed your future reality and deposit belief in you to keep going. If you're questioning yourself, please come back to me, and I believe in you. So if anything else, no one else, because you are in your fullest expression, and I don't care what it looks like. Keep doing that, because at some point people will understand, or some of them won't, and it's not for them to understand. It's about the freedom that you're creating within yourself, and that's what I see. So let them call it what it is, but you don't care, because you're just creating your magic. So keep it up, brother. I really appreciate you.
Matt, thank you so much. Blessings to you, my friend. Oh man, I appreciate you for saying that. I will talk with you soon.
All right. Till next time, I will see you in maybe another dimension.
Ciao, space cadet friend.
Yes, maybe on Mars.
Nos vemos, hermano.
Sí, sí. Adiós, amigo.